Good evening. This is Ted Holden again, Southeast Texas, and what I want to talk about tonight is a bit different from the usual renegade science topics. This involves the most interesting piece of computer software which I've ever worked on or had anything to do with, and like, where do we even start with this? This is called UltraTriev. It's a text indexing and retrieval methodology. And text indexing and retrieval is a kind of a Bermuda Triangle in the world of computer software. It's a problem which nobody has ever really had a completely good handle on. What people have tried to do up until now is basically almost all of it involves inverted hash tables, which is essentially like a database-like technique. And the problem is that database techniques or database-like techniques have no efficiency for dealing with text, in which every word in a body of text is some sort of an index, right? I mean, databases normally derive their efficiency from searching for some sort of a key, right, which keys into a much larger area of data, right? I mean, text indexing and retrieval is a situation in which everything is a key. UltraTriev doesn't work that way. UltraTriev is the first technology that there's ever been for dealing with large to extremely large bodies of text, which is actually efficient for indexing and retrieving text out of large bodies of text. It's typically it's more than 100 times faster, like 2 orders of magnitude than any other technology running on a normal sort of a PC. It actually outperforms text retrieval methodologies running on mainframes and servers. And what I've decided to do with this is an intriguing project. We never had any luck trying to market it. It's a long story, right? It's something which has been sitting on a back burner for a very long space of time. And what I've decided to do with it at this point is to simply make the normal little Windows version of this piece of software into freeware so that the whole world can use it. And I mean, no charge whatsoever. You can donate $5 or $10 if you feel like it. You know, there will be something like that on the web page or in the little README file that you see. And what I want to do here today is just, more than anything else, just give you a basic idea as to what this thing is, what it does, and how to use it. So what I'm going to do, hopefully, is to go to the screen share thing on Google Hangouts and YouTube. I'm going to go to share your entire screen, right, rather than an application window share. And the first thing you see is this kind of an Einstein mirror clock, which you have to just get rid of. And what I'm going to do is assume that I've got a, I mean, this is my computer screen, you know, normally. I'm going to assume that I have a directory which I'm calling temp2, and you would want to make up some kind of a little directory on your C drive called temp, or temp2 or temp3 or something. And that I've downloaded this file, which is called utsetup directory, utsetupdir.zip, right? And what am I going to want to do here? Open a window, extract all. Let's just say extract all to, yeah, utsetupdir, right? Extract. So I'm going to tell Microsoft Windows here to extract everything in that directory. Have to wait just a second here. Okay. And okay, here we are. We're going to end up in like a sort of a double UT setup here, right? I mean, just from extracting the zip file. I'm going to start off. I have a text for testing like 100 megabytes worth of Gutenberg text, which you could assume is similar to some directory of yours, where you have business notices or love letters or something or other, rhetoric, whatever, stashed, right? I mean, wherever you keep your normal doc or text files. I'm going to go back to the C drive, and I'm just going to copy that directory to the C drive here. Paste, right? It's going to take a minute. It's 100 megabytes worth of text. Okay. Let's go back to temp 2. Let's go back here and just click this setup.exe file for UltraTriev. Next. It's going to want to set this program up to run in a directory called C:/utrieve17. Don't change that, okay? I mean, that could screw everything up. There's something about Microsoft setup system which I don't really understand, and it's going to blow something up if you try to change this directory. Just go with this. It's not a very big program. It's very small, very efficient. It's like old school, right? When people still wrote software which was basically efficient. Next. Let's just see what happens here. I might want to put this stuff down just. Okay. This little screen could get hung up on your control bar here. You might end up having to click this little button if that doesn't appear immediately. Okay. Says finished, successfully installed. Good. Google Hangouts is showing. Okay. What I've got here is an icon which just got put on the desktop, which shows it's supposed to show a retriever, like some dog that fetches ducks for a living. Let's see what happens. Okay, there are only 2 screens that you need to worry about on UltraTriev. It's a simple thing to use. And what you end up doing, I mean, before you do anything else, you have to create a search index. You have to go to a directory which you're interested in. And this assumes also that you have text files in this directory. Now, there's one thing which, I mean, there's several kinds of things which UltraTriev can't do. It's not magic, right? It cannot index or retrieve coded files, which usually includes docx files, the newer type of Microsoft Word files which do not contain text, and PDF files. If you want to search those things, you have to first, either individually or with a batch process, convert the docx files to doc files, .doc files. Or in the case of PDF files, you have to extract the text, and there's software which is made for extracting text from PDF files. And that kind of software can operate in a batch mode. So that one way or another, there's ways to get at text which you have stored in these kinds of files right now. At any rate, the first thing that you're going to want to do is to create a search index. Okay, the program can also create lists of words, but creating lists of words, you're typically looking at 1 file or 2 files or something like that. You're not looking at some huge amount of text and then trying to create word lists. That could be slow. Creating indices with UltraTriev is very much faster than with any other technology. It creates indices at something like, a third to half the maximum rate of speed which a C program could simply read through the data using sector size reads. Okay, so it's extremely fast. Create search indices. You have to point this thing towards a directory to search. And let's remember that before I did anything else, I copied that 100 megabyte Gutenberg or section of Gutenberg text onto the C drive. Let's go to that, okay? So we're going to go to the C drive here and then text testing 100 megabytes of Gutenberg. Okay. And if I wanted to just index one or two files, I would highlight those and then like search index for selected files. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say the entire directory. This is the way you normally use the program. Include subdirectories, English, most likely. The kinds of files that you want to index, all of your normal types of text files, files with no suffix, text, doc, XLS, HTM, HTML, RTF, C, CPP, C++, .h files. Okay, you can add a category of text files for something of your own, but for the time being, let's just say that I'm interested in this file that I copied here, which is 100 megabytes worth of Gutenberg text, and say search index for entire directory. Click that first. You can have spaces in the name here. Okay, this is more of a description than a name. Okay, if you were creating a word list, you would have to not have spaces in the name. That would be a file name. Okay, and this just ran, believe it or not, it's that quick. You know, just indexed 100 megabytes. Now let's, before we proceed, let's find something in that body of text which we could search for. Okay, we didn't do that originally, so I'm going to go back to the C drive and then to this thing, right? Let's just pick some sort of a file at random. And the way you normally use this program is to search, okay, the track of the railroad, right, for more than 300 miles to Niagara. You would have some sort of an idea of 2 or 3 words which you remember being in some proximity to each other in a letter or some sort of a document that you were looking for. That's the way you normally use this thing. They don't have to be like specific, right? This thing is called, this is a text editor, by the way. I'm sorry, it's like, might be some people who've never seen a programmer's text editor. It's specifically made to handle .txt files. Anti-slavery office in New York, okay? That might be the thing that you remember. Let's go back to UltraTriev and you know, we've just finished, we've created a directory for searching here. We're going to select, double click this, select the directory, searching, okay, we're going to select, let's say the thing that we remembered was something about anti-slavery in New York. Anti-slavery in New York, right, search. And it's turning up 4 hits in this file that we were looking at. Double click, right, as they entered anti-slavery office in New York. Do you see what I'm saying? So that you found this, I didn't have to have these words in it, you know, like in proximity, I mean, like in the order in which they appear in the file, right? I could have entered that in any order. Let me show you something else the product does. It doesn't have bells and whistles. It's not a full-blown product like you might find on a server. But for all intents and purposes, it's completely usable, right? I mean, it has 1 or 2 little idiosyncrasies of its own. Say Harriet piloted from slavery. Let's say this was what I remembered, right? Ooh, let's go back, real easy to do. Double click the available search index. Harriet, let's pretend for a moment that I can't remember how to spell piloted, right? So I'm just going to, let's just say ET. It's like wildcarding in UltraTriev is by omission. Okay, so that if you can't remember how to spell a whole word, then the idea might be to simply type in the part of the word that you do remember. Okay, and it will pick up anything. Harriet, pilot, Slav, slave, right? And I can't remember how to spell these two words, let's pretend. Still finds it. At any rate, I mean, that stuff will be there. It's doing a better job, particularly of handling large files. Now, normal software for indexing and retrieving large bodies of text makes an assumption which may not hold true in every case. The assumption is that you're always looking at large numbers of reasonably small files. Okay, that might not work for most pieces of software. That doesn't phase UltraTriev. UltraTriev handles that with no problems. It's searching for regions within a file. Okay, it's finding them, and it doesn't matter how big the file is. I could have like 50 megabytes, or I could have a couple of gigabytes of text data in one file, and it will find it. Now, one thing you may have noticed when I created this index was that one thing you may have noticed was that you didn't see the little progress bar that you normally expect to see in Microsoft applications, right, in Windows applications. The Windows GUI itself will hang if it's seeing some kind of a colossally disk-intensive application, right? In other words, you know, that's actually what's happening. You simply have to develop a feel for how much time it's taking to index bodies of text. This thing, like on the computers which were common, like in 2002, was indexing the version of Gutenberg's entire data set, which was about 4 gigabytes. At that time, it was taking about 5 or 6 minutes to do that. Okay, that's an idea of the general level of speed of this program. On this computer, that same 2006 Gutenberg set takes like maybe half a minute to index, something like that. If you really feel antsy about it, you can watch the progress in the directory that the thing uses to create its indices, right? I'll show you that in a while. Let me do something else here. Let's go back and get into this directory, and I'm going to index this a second time. But before I do, I'm going to, let's just pick something here. See what this is, something in German, auf Deutsch, right? Bau des Tempels, building of the temple. I didn't realize there was German stuff in here. Let's put some sort of a signature on this about the bears ruling the continent. Okay, I'm going to save this. I'm going to change it just a little bit, right? And now let's get back to where we go. Get back to UltraTriev here. Let's create another search index in that same directory. Okay. Create a search index for the entire directory, right? And call it second. Second index for second index for 100 megabyte Gutenberg set. To give you an idea of the sparsity of text data, you know, we're used to thinking in terms of gigabytes and terabytes anymore because of the hype, right, and because of the hardware which we're buying. And gigabytes are usually, you know, means that you're dealing with movies and things which involve media, right? Now, when you start talking about text, your world is much smaller. Okay, the Bible is 4.5, both Testaments is 4.5 megabytes, not gigabytes, but 4.5 megabytes, million characters of text. Tolstoy's War and Peace, you know, both volumes, is about 3.5 megabytes, not gigabytes. Shakespeare's plays and sonnets, all of them, it's about 6.5 megabytes, okay? When you start talking about a gigabyte of text data, then the kind of a ballpark that you're in, that would be ballpark for all of the documentation for an American aircraft carrier and all of its aircraft and all of the electronics, both for the carrier itself and for the aircraft. I mean, that's the sort of thing that you're talking about if you're talking about a gigabyte of text right now. The other thing you might be talking about is the kind of data which the internet itself produces in a single day, right? I mean, all over the world. Then you're talking about gigabytes also. You're talking about, you know, billion or a couple billion people. And there might be businesses or government agencies which have some use for finding data, you know, from something like that, right? What I'm telling you is that there's no other product which can handle that sort of a load. This product can. And in fact, the indices which UltraTriev uses are handled as objects and as STL lists of objects, right? So that, you know, it'd be very easy to adapt this piece of software to run over multiple computers or to use multiple cores in the same computer one way or another. It can handle the load for these kinds of giant tasks. There's no other piece of software which can really handle those kinds of loads. They keep trying to throw hardware at that problem, but the problem gets bigger as fast as the hardware does, right? In other words, this is what I mean when I said that they've never really had a completely good handle on that sort of a thing. Second index for, well, let's just do this, right? And it comes back in a couple of seconds, right? It really did just read through an index, that 100 megabyte directory that quickly. This is a, what is this? It's not a bleeding edge computer. The computer this is running on is a 2017 computer, right? But it's using an AMD 63, not the 8300 chip, and it's about 16 gigabytes of RAM memory. It's back from the bleeding edge a bit, right? It's not it's not an outright maximum computer for 2017. Let's say, okay, we're finished with this. Second index, right? Just told it I want to search in the second index. The first index isn't going to know anything about bears ruling the continent, right? If I say now search on bears, it's going to find, it actually found a couple of other hits for just by happen chance, right? But the hit that I was looking at is in the German version of Haggai from Martin Luther's Bible, apparently. At any rate, here you see it, right? It's like it did what I told it to do. Idle curiosity, what would this be about? Okay, forever and forever, and then there's going to be the word bear is going to appear here somewhere, at any rate. You find it if you looked hard enough. The software doesn't make mistakes. It's good at what it does. Let me give you one more little bit of a look at this business of wildcarding by omission. Let's pick something. Let's go back here. And create a search index for something which I've worked with a little bit more, right, which is a text for testing. Okay, my normal old 32 megabyte text directory, which includes like the Bible, Martin Luther's Bible, Greek and Roman text, Hiawatha, a bunch of different kinds of things, right? Shakespeare's plays and sonnets, Tolstoy, War and Peace, right? Let's index this thing, search index for the entire directory, right? I'm going to say old 32. Right? It comes back pretty quickly. I'm going to say, okay, I'm finished with it. These are the only two screens that you need to worry about for using UltraTrieve. If you've watched this so far, then you know how to use the program. Okay, it's fairly simple. I'm going to say, I'm going to double click this thing that I just created, right, this 32 megabyte directory. And one word which I can never remember how to spell is Gatling, you know, like the early hand-cranked machine gun from the Civil War. G-A-T. I can never remember how to spell that. Gatling guns, right? And this is turning up. There's going to be, I didn't give it much to search on just then. It's like usually you want one or two words which are a little bit bigger than 3 characters or 4 characters. You need to give it something to bite on. I'm not giving the farm away to tell you that this thing is looking for groups of 3 letters in proximities, right? I mean, there are other types of software which could be described as n-grams, right? This is a 3-gram program, but the manner in which UltraTrieve looks for groups of letters is completely different from any other piece of software. It's much faster. It's using a technology which is similar to the technology of a Fourier transform. Okay, it's creating a location view of the data rather than the usual context view. Okay, it's turning up guns and gates, right? But it will turn up Gatling guns. It's like I would have to figure a little bit better way to do that, right? Now, the more you give it, the more accurate it becomes. That turned up 3 hits in the Connecticut Yankee. Okay, Gatling guns, rifled guns. You see what I'm saying? So in other words, if I can't remember how to spell a particular word, then I can just type in whichever part of the word I do remember how to spell, along with 1 or 2 other words which I expect to find around it. Okay, and that's the normal way that you use the thing. The more you give it, and that's another funny kind of a thing, right? It's like, you know, other pieces of software designed for indexing and retrieving text are designed using database techniques or database-like techniques. The more words you search on, it gets slower, right? It's like you're looking at something similar to a database join when you start doing that. This thing gets faster, more accurate when you give it more to search on. Right? It's like human memory. The application itself behaves like human memory. So at any rate, once you've seen this, then you've pretty much got enough to play with. All you need to do is to download the application, the setup file, and you're good to go, right? There are a couple of other, there's a README file which would be good to read before you start before you start playing with this, but you could just start playing with it with what you've seen here. Okay, this is going to okay, we just got rid of Mr. Einstein's mirror clock, and that's going to do it for this broadcast. Enjoy, right? This is, again, this is the most intriguing piece of software that I've ever worked with, and you know, I want the world to have it, basically. If anybody has any sort of an idea for a more grandiose way to use this software, you know, something which would run on mainframe computers or on servers, you're going to have to contact me, and contact information is given, like on bearfabrique.org, bigbear@bearfabrique.org, BEARF as in Frank, BEARFABRIQUE.org. Okay, Bear Fabrique means bear factory, right? Fabrique, like you're going to fabricate something. That's a normal European word for a factory, French spelling, right? You know, bear factory was already taken. But at any rate, that's the story of UltraTriev. Enjoy it.